This video is presented to you by www.testprepadda.com. Dear students, in the previous lecture of kinematics, I talked about distance and displacement. In this video lecture, I will talk about speed, and you must have done this in lower classes. What is speed? Speed is a kind of rate of change of distance, means distance traveled upon time taken. It is a scalar quantity because the distance is a scalar quantity. Now, in a running car, you must have seen the speedometer. Now tell me, does the speed of the car remain same throughout the journey or it varies? You must say it varies because it is very difficult to drive the car with a constant speed. Many times you must have heard people saying, I drive my car with an average speed of 50 km per hour. At the same time, you must have heard someone saying, today I drove my car, or today I touched the speed of 150 km per hour. So when a person says he touched the speed of 150 km per hour, it means at a particular instant of time, the speed was 150 km per hour. This is called instantaneous speed. This is called what? Instantaneous speed. But when he says on an average he drove the car with 50 km per hour, that is the average speed. Means for a certain time interval, for example T1, he drove the car with, let us say, 75 km per hour, and then for another time interval T2, he drove the car with 40 km per hour, and for another time interval T3, he drove the car with 45 km per hour, but the average was 50 km per hour. So here we are getting two types of speeds. Here we are getting two types of speeds. Number one, average speed. Number two, instantaneous speed. First, I will talk about average speed. What is average speed? Average speed of an object in a given time interval is defined as the distance traveled by the object divided by time interval. For example, in this frame of reference, take this as X, this as Y, this as Z. You are at A at time T1, and then after covering a certain distance, you are at point B at time T2. The distance covered is S, and the time taken to cover this S distance is, the time interval is T2 minus T1. So, how will you define average speed? The average speed, as per the definition, will be written as S upon T2 minus T1. Dear students, please note that this average speed does not give you the actual speed at any particular instant of time, but it gives you the idea of slowness or fastness of the object, how slow or how fast the object is moving. Have you ever watched a cricket match? There they give average run rate of any team. What is that average run rate? That is the total runs scored by the team upon total overs. The run rate gives you the idea that how good or bad the team is playing. Many times during the chase, they also give required run rate. That required run rate gives you the idea that how many runs are required on an average in every over to win a match. Now you can know how important is the average speed. So, we have defined average speed as we have defined average speed as the distance traveled upon the time interval. Now if I draw a graph between the distance traveled and time taken. If I consider the graph as this, for example, let us say at time t, you are at S, and in the time interval delta t, means at time t plus delta t, you are at S plus delta t. Sorry, S plus delta S. So the distance delta S is traveled in time interval delta t. So how will you write average speed? Average speed here will be written as delta S upon delta t. Got it? Now, if we want to get speed at any particular instant of time, if we want to get speed at any particular instant of time, then the time interval should be 0. Although as delta t approaches 0, delta S also approaches 0. Delta S will become very small, but the delta S upon delta t has finite value. So, how will you define instantaneous speed at a particular time? The instantaneous speed. The instantaneous speed will be defined as limit delta t tends to 0 delta s upon delta t. Now recall the calculus. Recall the calculus. We have written this as ds by dt. We have written this as ds by dt. This ds by dt represents the slope. This ds by dt represents the slope of the tangent, to the curve at time t. If I consider this as theta, then tan theta will be written as ds by dt. Now, if the graph is a straight line, distance versus time, if the graph is a straight line, means every time the slope is coming constant. So we can say ds by dt is same. So object is moving with uniform speed. Now we have written v as ds by dt. So ds can be written as v dt. Now if I integrate, then I'll write integral ds is equal to integral v dt. Now if I draw a graph between v, speed, and time, then for example this, if I put the limit at t1 at t1 and here at t2. So integral v dt limits t1 to t2. Here if I write s1 to s2, this will give s2 minus s1. That means the distance covered. This distance covered is actually, from this we can say, it is the area under the curve. It is the area under the curve between V and T. V versus T graph. It is the area under the curve. So distance traveled can be found by finding the area under the curve. Got the idea? Now to understand the concept of speed, I'll take few questions here. The first question says, suppose a bus is going from Chennai to Kanyakumari and the distance traveled by the bus in the time t is given by d is equal to 10 t square. Now, if you look at the unit given, kilometer per hour square, we can predict that if I put time in hours, then I'll get distance in kilometers. Now here the question says, first part, average speed of the bus during the time interval 0 to 5 hours. Second part of the question says, the instantaneous speed at time t is equal to 5 hours. First, I'll take the first part of this question. T is equal to 0, bus is here, and this I'll take T as 5 hours. So, use the relation given, D is equal to 10 T square. So here D is 0, and at 5 hours, if I find D will be, if I substitute this T as 5 here, so it becomes 10 into 25, and that is 250 kilometer. So in the time interval 5 hours, the distance covered by the bus is 250 kilometer. So the average speed will be written as steel tires, that is the distance traveled upon the time interval. So I will write this as 250 upon 5, and the value comes as 50 kilometer per hour. So the average speed of the bus during the time interval 0 to 5 hours is 50 kilometer per hour. Now, second part. We know the instantaneous speed as ds by dt. Okay, now substitute this s here. This relation is given 10t square. Now differentiate, you'll get this as 20t. Now if I put this t as 5, because we have to find instantaneous speed at time t is equal to 5. So the instantaneous speed comes as 20 into 5, and that is 100 kilometer per hour. That is the 100 kilometer per hour. This is the instantaneous speed at t is equal to 5 hours. Now I'll take another question here. The question says, a car starts its journey at time t is equal to 0 seconds and travels with speed 2 meter per second for 2 seconds. And then from t is equal to 2 seconds to t is equal to 5 seconds, it travels with the speed 5 meter per second. And from t is equal to 5 seconds to 10 seconds, it travels with the speed 3 meter per second. Find the total distance traveled and average speed of the car. Now, if I convert this question in a chart form, here I write time and the unit is second. Here I'll write speed, and that is meter per second. And here I'll write distance, and that is meter. So 0 to 2, the speed was 2 meter per second. So how much distance the car will cover? 2 into 2 is equal to 4, because the distance upon time is equal to speed. So distance will be equal to what? Speed into time taken. So 2 into 2 is 4 here. Now another interval 2 to 5, it is given the speed 5 meter per second. So how much distance? Speed into time interval 5 minus 2, and that is 3. So how much distance? 15 meter. Now 5 to 10, another interval given. The speed is 3 meter per second. So 3 into 5, time interval is 5 seconds. So it will be again 15. Got the idea? So what is the total distance traveled? Total distance traveled is equal to 4 plus 15 plus 15, and that comes as 34 meter. And this 34, the distance traveled is in how much seconds? 10 seconds, because here the time interval was 2, here the time interval was of 3, here the time interval was of 5 seconds. So total time in 10 seconds. So how will you write average speed? The average speed will be written as 34, that is the distance traveled upon the time interval is 10. So the value comes as 3.4 meter per second. Got the idea? Hope you have understood the concept of average speed and concept of instantaneous speed. In the next video lecture, I'll talk about velocity, instantaneous velocity and average velocity. Thank you. This video is presented to you by www.testprepadda.com. TestPrepAdda.com provides free audio-visual lectures of different subjects by expert faculties, free online tests prepared by expert faculties to students who are preparing for engineering or medical entrance exams or planning to take exams like KVPY, Olympiad, etc. It provides a platform where students can interact with mentors to improve their performance in the exams. The mission of this online medium is to help students to achieve their goals. Log on to www.testprepadda.com to watch free video lectures on different topics, to download free revision notes, to take free chapter-wise online tests, progressive test, and mock test, to discuss doubts with mentors. Thank you for watching the video. To stay up to date with the latest videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us on our Facebook page, Test Prep Adda. All the best.